Did you just start recording?
I did just start recording. Should I not?
Weren't we waiting? I thought some other people said they might show up, so I thought
there are more.
All right.
Well, might starts to not matter when you get 10 minutes over when we were planning on starting. Anyways,
we have a planned start time?
I don't know. Do we?
Next, you're going to say we have notes.
It's usually when somebody starts the recording.
Yeah, I'm shocked that you have us on a schedule, Mark. What the hell?
What? What's a schedule?
Schedule.
You're a schedule.
Well, now I'm going to have to actually complete this CG so that I can actually pay attention.
Okay, well, not looking at the notes, it appears to be the 285th episode for the 22nd of May, 2025.
You almost said 3311, didn't you?
I did almost say 3311, yes.
25.
And this is the loosest and screwiest and something podcast. I don't know why we're here either. Enjoy. Alrighty. And now we're going to do that favorite thing of everybody that one guy on YouTube who probably only listened to that episode ever doesn't like. We're going to see how everyone's week was.
Wow, there's just 3 of us. I'm going to have to pay attention.
I know, right?
What did you do to us, Lark?
What did you do to us?
You just put like all kinds of pressure on us to like not sound like idiots.
When was not sounding like idiots ever on the agenda for the Loose Screws podcast?
Well, I don't words hard.
Okay, fair enough. So since Chig is having a hard time with words, we'll start with Oblivious. How's your week, buddy?
Pretty good. I'm going to brag on my son a little bit. And
That's kind of bragging.
About 5 weeks out, about wrapping up his deployment to South Korea. He's Air Force Special Ops. And he did this thing called a Norwegian foot march. And there's about 500 participants all there on base. And actually, he said folks come around from around the world to participate in it. And the march is 25-pound rucksack and 18.6 miles.
Oof.
And he just did his annual PT test 4 days before that. And one of the things in that PT test is a 3-mile, 60-pound ruck.
Oof.
But
Holy
despite
crap.
that, out of 500 people, he managed to come in 4th.
Impressive.
Dang.
So that was pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And let's see, end game. Hey, you know how Peter Pan liked to navigate by saying second star to the right and straight on until morning?
Yeah.
That wouldn't work out here in Bologna. There's too many freaking stars out here. But that's where I'm at. I came out here to finally get the Colonia engineers, and I arrived about 40 minutes ago. So having a look around.
Nice.
That's what's going on with me.
Gorgeous out in Colonia. I'd recommend it to anybody.
Pretty background. How about you, Jig?
Well, Jesus, I was going to brag about my kid, but I just, it sounds so weak. My kid doesn't even weigh 60 pounds, I don't think. My God. But my kid is a senior in high school. She's all of 5 foot nothing, literally 5 feet even. And, I don't know, 105 pounds or whatever somebody that size weighs.
Frick, I miss being a teenager.
So, she can't do that, but she's a giant band nerd. She's not, like an athlete, and she's not going to take second out of 500 people or fourth, you said? Third. Second.
Fourth. Yeah, fourth.
Jesus. He should have went for Operation Bronze Medal. He would have won. But she just, a giant band geek and stuff, and they did their senior concert here, and she, plays like piccolo, flute, clarinet, oboe, saxophone. She plays
All the
damn near
reeds.
every instrument. She's into all
Mhm.
of them. But so it was the senior concert, and they did. It was cool. There was like a Looney Tunes medley that was pretty good, and they did something from How to Train Your Dragon, and they did a Star Wars medley too. A bunch of Star Wars songs. And my
Nice.
daughter's got a nice, expensive lightsaber, and the band director, started the song, tapped to get him started, and then all of a sudden they start the song, and then he stops and he goes, no, something's not right. And then he walked off stage and came back on stage with her lightsaber, and he conducted the Star Wars medley with a lightsaber. So that was pretty badass.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. But then my daughter, she won the Philip Sousa Award. So she got, that award for the
Nice.
band. So, she gets her name on the plaque and got the certificate and all that stuff, which was pretty cool. I was proud of that. And then the director let her direct the final song. It was like, she's in jazz
All
band,
right.
dance band, and all of that. And she actually conducted the, all the bands on the last thing. So that was pretty cool too. So, yeah, she didn't have to carry a rucksack doing it, but I was still proud. Well, we'll go that route. So
How's her math skills? She pretty good at math?
that's
It
all
usually
relative,
goes with
really.
the relative. Okay.
Yeah, well, see, the problem is in my house, I'm like crazy good at math, so everybody else is just terrible by that virtue.
Oh,
But
okay.
in this house, I would say she's the second best at math.
Okay.
Why do you ask? Because of keeping time, math comes in
Well,
handy. Or what?
yeah, math and musical abilities usually kind of go hand in hand. It's same type of brain function. So
Well, that's weird because I have no musical ability whatsoever.
Mm.
Like zero. I can barely recognize instruments, let alone play them or make them do cool things. And don't even try to get me to sing. Yeah.
No,
So
you're playing numbers.
yep, exactly.
Note to file, try and get Chig to sing.
No, we already have, not a whole lot of people listening to this. We don't need to go down that road. But
okay.
I don't know. That was the highlight of my week. Oh wait, in game, I've just been doing the same stuff. A lot of leveling up. I think I got another combat elite rank. Working my way towards all the fives. I will send out the congratulations to Single Malt. He finally got. The five main disciplines. He's elite 5 in all of them, or is it elite 6? I don't know.
Nice.
It is
Congrats, Scotty.
FDev math. Yeah, you asked about being good at math. FDev is not. But yeah, so that's it for me. So Lark Shadow, let's hear about your moving and your wife yelling at you and
frick.
things like
No,
that.
she hasn't been yelling at me, and if she has, it's probably because I deserve it. Actually, it's definitely because I deserve it. But that aside, for those who don't know, my wife and I have been searching to buy a home, and we have been under contract for like 2 weeks now. Inspection went through. We're already out of underwriting and approved. Appraisal went fine. Like, we're just waiting for closing at this point and to move. It's really exciting. We're first-time home buyers, and I can't freaking wait to have so many things to do that I'm probably going to ignore.
That checks out.
What?
That checks out. That's right.
That checks out.
And
Sorry, I'm eating.
No,
I
it's
can't
okay.
wait. I can't wait to hear you complaining after the closing about how many things you signed and you have no idea what you signed.
No, I read pretty fast. I'll be fine.
That'll be about the first quarter. And then by the end of it, it's just, just give it to me signed. Yeah, just give it to me signed.
Fair enough. But that aside, I haven't been playing much Elite because of that, because this game takes time to play, and I have not had a lot of time lately. Right now is the first time I've been in the game in like 2 weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. So I don't really have a lot in game to talk about, but I've been keeping tabs on what's been going on, and that's basically it. I've got nothing else.
All right. Well, you're hosting, so move on from there.
All right. Well, no, you move on from there.
No,
move you on from there.
I've tried.
Somebody on the soundboard.
Incoming priority message.
Squadron briefing.
You're waiting for a soundboard.
You are a soundboard.
Anyways, Oblivious.
BGS? Really? Bill GS? Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that thing's still out there.
Sort of.
Well, thanks, Mr. Bloomingwind. He did provide us some notes.
There's notes?
Yeah.
Huh.
And it says that there's a war out in Darahk and other places. It literally says that. A war in Darahk and other places.
I
Like
bet
that.
there
Yeah.
are.
Miola is still a slow-moving train wreck. So what's the latest there? The one minor faction, PPMC or something like that, that owns Harris Hospital, even though we won Harris Hospital, got into an election with another subfaction, and that subfaction won and took over the Harris Hospital and control of the system, even though they're not in control of the system, and there's still phantom CGs out there. So yeah, it's the foster child of or poster child of everything wrong with BGS right now.
It is going great in Miola.
It's great. You call it Miola, I call it Miola. So
Tomato.
fun fact, going back to just before Power Play 2 started, and along with Trailblazers, we were controlling an N64 systems. As of this writing, we're now in 230 systems. And none of that addition was intentional. It just happened.
Good
So
Lord.
if there are still some things to do in Discord, if you want to in BGS, if you want to do some BGS things, we do get some people occasionally ask, "Hey, maybe I'll do some BGS stuff," and we go, "Yeah, okay, you can.
Good luck.
We'll see what the rules are, and if
That's
you want to,
fine.
come visit us out on our Discord, and we'll point you in some directions and answer your questions and say, yeah, it's broke whenever you go, what the hell?" So
That's
that's
okay.
the plot update.
All right. Well, moving
Now, how
right
you gonna pull off
along.
this next one?
What was that?
How are you going to pull off this next section?
I was going to say, moving right along, I don't even have the sounder for the Power Play update because I can only have 3 loaded at a time.
It's
'Cause I'm not-
average. Get your facts
Right.
straight.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
There, we're good.
So in Power Play, using Nicey's, is it Nicey or Nicey? I never remember.
Nicey.
Nicey?
I say tomato.
So in Nicey's PowerPoint to Power Play updates, we have Ashleen Duvall has taken over in first place and extended her lead over number 2, Arissa Langenly Duvall, who has down 27 points this week. I don't know if that was coordinated or if Ashleen is just beating the crap out of the Emperor right now. I really don't know what's going on there. But in third place, we still have Edmund Mahon, who is up 2 points. Right after him is Grom, who is actually down, but only 1 point. And in fifth place, we have our own Lee Young Ruri, who is just hanging out in fifth place. Didn't move up or down this week. No points. Right after that is Jerome Archer, who's down 1 point, and you love to see it. Love it more if it was more numbers there, if I was down, but hey. In seventh place, we have Nakato Kaine, who is up 54 points this week, over Pranav Antal in 8th, who's down 7 points. Right after that, we have Archon Delane, who's down 7 points. And in 10th place, Denton Petraeus, that is still bleeding out. He is down another 4 points. Anyone know what's going on there?
Nope.
Interesting.
No. I mean, have you ever looked at the statistics on Inara? They're kind of interesting.
I haven't actually.
Well, it's got, the stats for what percentage of the player base is pledged to which powers. Which is kind of interesting, when you look at the movement we have and things like that. And like there's a CG right now, which is Mahon versus who's Mahon against right now? It's
Kaine.
Nakado Kaine.
Yeah, it's an inner alliance thing. And in it, just for the record, in 11th and 12th is Winters and Torvald, and who cares?
So and it's looking at that. And right now that CG has started, and Mahon is out to like a 3-1 lead, as far as being hauled. Yeah, it's
Holy
he's
crap.
already jumped out. But what's funny is if you look at percentage of players, and keep in mind, you always have to take this with a grain of salt because it is, what is, of Inara registered users.
Right, exactly.
People reporting to Inara. But I think overall you're going to be, pretty representative of the player base, especially the players that are playing a lot. Most people do end up, registering their characters with Inara. But I mean, what surprised me is, pledging to powers, think of how many accounts on Inara might be people who aren't even playing anymore, so what percentage of players do you think are registered to a power at all? I mean, is it 90% of players are pledged to a power? Is it 10%? Is it somewhere in the middle? What would your guess be?
Well, real quick, I think you forgot that when PowerPlay 2.0 dropped, everybody was unpledged as part of that drop.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
So that was the official restart point. And as far as active players on Inara, I would say 50%. A solid 50, like 52 or 53% are pledged.
Okay. Well, yeah, about 45%
was in the range.
Are pledged. But whether it was, if it was removed, that would make sense. But I still would have thought that it would have been even a lower number than that of people pledged, because Inara's, that's going to be all players active or not. That's everybody registered on Inara. So I would have thought the number would be even smaller than that. So I was surprised that, 45%, almost half of players are pledged to a power. But I was mentioning the Mahon and Kaine, right now Mahon is, 3 times the amount of stuff delivered for this CG, which I'm sure one of you guys will gladly explain what's happening with that. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that because of the fact the rewards for it are so strange. But you'd think, which of those 2 powers has more people pledged to it? By what I said, you'd assume that it's Mahon, right? Or Mahon might have 3 times as many players, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He does not. Nakado Kaine actually has more people pledged. It's super close. It's 2.61% of the player base on Inara is
interesting.
Nakado Kaine, and 2.60. So they're within 0.01% of each other. But the Mahon, I keep wanting to say Mahon. It's Mahon.
Yeah, I did that earlier, so no worries.
They're a different breed. That Fednex and stuff. Doing stupid stuff, right? He's Fed, right?
As someone who was pledged to Mahon for a bit, I will say that most of the people that pledge to his side of the alliance, they're there because they really believe in, okay, we're going to be independent and free from all this other bull crap. And whether it's role play or not, they really believe what they're fighting for. So that's just my experience.
Going back to the rankings, where did these 2 fall in the rankings that you read out earlier?
Just bolster that. Edmund Mahon is all the way up at number 3. Nakado Kaine is all the way down at 7.
Wow.
Yeah, and they have basically the same amount of. I see Kaine at 8. What rankings are you using? The in-game ranking then, or are you using?
No, I'm using Nices.
Krugers. Oh, Nices. Okay. I don't know which rankings.
Kaine's team, what is it? 1.5 million so far versus Mahon. Oh, Mahon's 4 times
Or
above that.
Oh, it's even more. It was 3 times
Yeah,
earlier. It was like 1.2
yeah,
to 3.6 earlier.
yeah, they're at 5.1 now. Okay.
So
well, since we're
so
talking about the
And
CG, hey Chig, why don't you tell us why there's a CG?
I have no idea. It's hauling shit, so I don't
Okay,
care
fair
even
enough.
a little bit. So
Well, that just blew up in my face, didn't it?
I know that they're giving away a double engineered power distributor, but it's systems and engines, right? Is the two, not
Yeah.
weapons. So really,
Correct.
I don't. It's just weird. I don't think I'm going to touch this CG because that really doesn't excite me at all. But why don't you explain it?
Well, the short version of what's going on is there was a Galnet update, a couple actually recently. One of them was that the Alliance, after much hemming and hawing behind the scenes, decided to end the defense pact they had with the Sirius Corporation during the Thargoid War. And let us bear in mind that that defense pact gave us such great things like, but you're not even in the Alliance. And that's basically it. And now it's over. And on top of that, there is now a CG where it says trading blocks compete in alliance space. So it's all these different corporations that are vying for the alliance's money for all intents and purposes, in order to basically be their Department of Defense, or at least one of the military contractors that makes their stuff. And so you're supposed to be delivering synthetic fabric semiconductors and ceramic composites to Winiama for Mahon or Apura for Kaine. Participation gets you a system/engine focused double engineered power distributor that is either 6A, 4A, 3A, 4D, or 3D varieties, with another set for picking. Wait, what? The sentence makes no sense. With another set for picking a winner and being in the top 75%.
yeah, if you are pledged to the power that wins, then you get that other tier.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
But if you look at the actual stats on this, it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Bizarre.
Well, I wonder if we're going to get another opportunity like the previous CG. So on that previous one, what was it? Duval started running away with it early, and so they raised the upper tier, which I don't remember where it started at. This one is at what, 200 million
Yeah.
tons. But they also God-handed the power CZs into the system. And we had a good idea, but we didn't get any. We didn't react fast enough. Maybe we should be keeping an eye on this one. If they do the same thing and create power CZs, we should go in there and see if we can create BGS wars that cause the power CZs to fail, and maybe we'll get some attention to that problem.
Possibly.
I like it.
We can hope. But I mean,
Yeah.
would they add a combat power CZ element? What was the last CG? I don't even remember. Was that
CG? Yeah, I kept saying that. Yeah, the last CG was the same thing. It was a hauling one. It was Duval, and I forget who else. And it was wrapping up really fast. It was one for that abrasion blaster, Chick.
That's right. That's what it was.
Yeah. And so yeah, they raised the tier, but they also created a conflict in the system where everything was
it
being
was
delivered.
Grom and Winters.
Was it Grom and Winters? Okay. Not
Yes,
Duval.
I'm looking right now, and that's another interesting little thing here. Like this conflict is Kaine and Mahon, and I told you that percent of commanders pledged were both at the 2.6% range, You go
Uh-huh.
Grom and Winters, they were both in the 3.4%. So they picked
Nice.
commanders that were like within 0.06% of each other on each of the last CGs. I don't know if
That
that's
makes
just
sense.
coincidence, but those
2 is a
powers
coincidence.
have a
3 is on
history.
purpose.
Yeah, so I don't know. The last two, this CG and the one prior, both picked powers that were very, very close in player population, on the two sides of it. So I don't know. I don't know what
Interesting.
that means, but it's interesting. Yes, exactly.
I honestly don't think it does mean anything. And at this point, I actually do think it's just a coincidence, but we shall see, I guess.
Yeah, and see, I don't follow any of the power stuff enough to know if there's a reason why Grom and Winters specifically would be in that fight, or why Mahon and Kaine. I'll admit, everybody knows I just like to shoot shit. So CGs, if they involve shooting, I'm out there trying to help. I've never really cared about the powers. I've barely cared about BGS. I know you guys, I help when you guys need help with something, especially if it's a war or something. I'm in there helping, or if there's other players out there involved, I'll hop out there and help. But otherwise, I really don't. I follow politics and crap both in my professional life and watching the news and stuff in the real world. I don't need to follow
to do it here.
politics and stuff in game. Zero interest. I'm sorry. So I like to, I've said many times, I'm here to fly my spaceship. I'm not here to play politics with the galaxy. So I'm
Nice.
for hire.
All right. Well, moving right along in dev news, we have a whole bunch of crickets just moving on through. So in the show notes, someone actually put the emoji of a cricket, and it took me like a full minute 30 or so staring at that to be like, oh, that's what it is. It didn't connect. I also have it zoomed way out on that browser, so that probably didn't help. But on the 16th, we had a little update to Trailblazers 3.2, which fixed cargo transferring from fleet carriers. It also fixed a couple other things that were busted on fleet carriers. I don't know what. It just literally says other FC fixes. And colonization linking has apparently been fixed, which I also don't know what that means because I haven't done any colonization yet, personally. Have you, Oblivious?
No.
Have you, Chig? Moving right along.
No. But yeah, it's like strong links and weak links. I heard like Lave Radio, they were talking about it a little bit. And I'm like, yep, I have not looked at it, have not touched it. If you're looking for advice or in-depth analysis of colonization systems or anything like that, this is not the place to come.
Nope. And in market news for your arcs, because there is a hauling CG going on, the pre-built T9 for hauling is 40% off right now. And there is also a sale on chromed and golden paint jobs for your ship.
Chromed or chromified or chromine?
Both.
Chromiest? Chromin.
It's whatever.
Okay.
A Chrome T9?
A Chrome T9. That would be a thing to see.
That thing would blind you.
That would take a lot of chrome.
Right.
I want to see a chromed Coriolis.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine coming out of Super Cruise to the chromed Coriolis and it's at just the right angle where it's like mirroring onto your ship? So you just explode like an ant under a magnifying glass?
With noob hammers on it.
With the noob hammers, yes. Which are invisible, by the way, because there's no light reflecting off them at the angle you came into the station on.
Perfect.
We need to make this happen. Stat.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of hauling. Give us that Panther Clipper sooner rather than later if you're going to keep giving us hauling CGs. I mean, come on, FDev. Fuck.
They're doing that to make you want the Panther Clipper. Make you want
Not-
more.
Not me. No. I'm
Whatever,
ready to. I'm ready for mail slot goodness when that thing comes out and having fun FA-offing and flipping that thing and seeing, how fast you can. I don't know. Who am I kidding? It probably flies at like 80 meters per second.
I don't know,
So
man.
what
I'm
is-
in Ninjara right now, and I found a planetoid with some pretty good mountains
Where
for
are you?
hooning. Dinjara.
Janara?
Dinjara.
Ninjara.
Jinjanara? Whatever. The place where we had those power CZs and then they like went away the same day because
Okay.
BGS.
That's that's one of about 7, but okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You'll get there.
All right.
There's some really good canyons here for hooning, and I can't wait to put the freaking Panther Clipper through there and watch it get stuck between the ledges.
Yep. It'll be fun.
Oh, it'll be great.
Now, when is that? End of June?
Middle to end of June, I believe, is what it
Yeah,
was.
third week in June, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Did they give an actual date? I thought they just said summer.
I thought it was summer as well, so.
Everybody knows the third week of June is summer.
And if they say summer,
And
and
this
summer
affair.
starts third week of June, it ends third week of September, I would say we're more likely to see it in September, but that's the pessimist in me.
We'll see.
All right. We will see indeed.
Yes. Anyways, moving right along to the discussion, Chig actually came up with this discussion topic. So everyone go flood Chig chat with it when you hear this on the Discord. But the question, actually, Chig, you came up with it. You say it.
Well, I was just, we've been talking about so many different things, and this is actually, I don't know if I'm glad that Axis isn't here or I wish he was here, because my idea is something that he brought up when there were 8, 9 of us hitting stronghold carriers the other night. And it was a good
fun.
time. And he mentioned something just in passing, and then my brain just locked onto it. And it's been driving me a little bit crazy the last few days. I'm like, that is actually a really goddamn good idea, and I have to credit him with it. But I'll go last year. I just want to know, I wish that there were more of us here. With only 3 of us here, so I guess our ideas are the only ones that matter, because everybody
True
else
story.
isn't here. But like, we've got a new feature coming to the game that we don't know what that is. I'm not really asking, to speculate on what you think the new feature upcoming is going to be. I'm more curious, if you could have one thing fixed in the game or added to the game, what would that be? Some people, anti-aliasing, that drives them nuts. Talking to you, Jello Wiggler, I think that would make you happier than anybody if they somehow managed to fix that. Some BGS stuff, there's different bugs. Maybe some of those, I'm sure Trax right now has fixed this power CZ bullshit so he can do what he really loves in the game. Me, it might be CQC. Maybe it's an entirely new feature. Colonization was in there. Maybe it's ship interiors. I don't know. I want to know what your guys is. If you had a wish right now, what would be the one thing, be it a fix or be it a new feature, that you want most? I'm gonna go Lark Shadow first.
Okay. So for me, this is actually pretty easy because it's something I've always thought about and thought it would be cool. It's also something that could dovetail nicely into ship interiors if they would want to do that, but you could do it in the state the game is currently in as well. And that is EVAs in space. Like for instance, maybe you go to like a signal source to gather some materials, right, Chig? Your limpets pick up some stuff, but your sensors can pick up something that it can't quite make sense of. It just knows that it's signals bouncing off something there. So your limpets can't get it. So then you get out of your seat, you get out of the ship, and you can jet your way over there to see what it is. And it could, honestly, it could just be like the kind of materials you can already find in the ground for like ground stuff. But they're also floating in space now too, so you can grab those and then go back to your ship before you run out of oxygen and power. You know what I mean? I think that would be so cool.
So kind of like the ones that are on planets right now, where you go to this canister that's on the ground, but instead you're doing it in space.
Right, exactly. So you have the
Okay.
added danger of like, oh crap, that's floating away. Do I have enough power and oxygen to go get that? Or should I come back to my ship real quick and recharge or blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. No. Absolutely. I totally. I like that a lot. I think that it would be better with ship interiors because you go, to the
Oh, yeah.
airlock and things like that, rather than just going, appearing in space and then, EVAing around. But no, I totally get that. Any
Yeah.
other gameplay that comes along with that? Or are you talking you can fight in space too? Are there going to be bad guys that you're shooting at while you're doing this?
Maybe. I mean, you can get out your gun. The ground weapons have been proven to be pretty effective against most ships. Maybe you can have some people in a multi-crew situation. They're hiding in the wreckage and your ship is nearby. So when someone comes by, they can just freaking open fire. And other people have no idea where it's coming from until they turn around. But oh, wait, now the ship is shooting at you too.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? I think it could just add just a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? I think depth is the wrong word, but that's the direction I'm going with it. You know what I mean?
Well, for me, it would be. I've always thought on stuff like that is like the generation ships out there and ghost
Oh,
ship
yeah.
stuff. You could add a whole like, yeah, almost horror element going into some of these things would be cool. I always thought if they were going to introduce ground Thargoids, introducing them inside a ship you go to investigate would have been cool as hell. But we just never got that ability.
Like
So
another generation ship gets found, and this
yeah.
one has clearly been attacked by Thargoids, and one of the hatches is open, and that's the only way in or out.
Yeah, but I mean, it wouldn't even have to necessarily be a generation ship. It could be, a fleet carrier out there
Yeah, there
that's,
you go.
that's has damage, has caustic on, and it's like, what's going on? Why can't we contact this thing? And then you go on board, and especially if they did it with like a tip off mission or something, because I don't know. I never do any of the tip off missions. Maybe that's the way you get to Raxla is you do some tip off missions and eventually it leads you there, but nobody ever does them. So
That
we've never
explains it.
found it. Exactly. Because it's like the goofy little asteroid fields we have, when you're scanning a planet and there's those extra asteroid fields that they're no good for mining. They're just there for no reason. Gotta figure one of them somewhere has to have something in it, right? But I'm not gonna take the time to go look at all of them.
I was minding one of those once. I wasn't finding anything in the rings, and so I thought, what the hey, I'll check these on my way out, and I found the oh gosh, I don't remember what I was looking for, but I found it on one of the asteroids there, so I mined the crap out of it and then left.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. I've tried a few times back in the past hoping to find useful stuff in those and never really found anything of value or even, close to what I wanted to find.
Interesting.
So, okay. Well, what about you, Oblivious?
Well, I'll answer along the lines of what I believe is possible and then probably improbable. Yeah,
I
the
like
thing
it.
that I enjoy the most in this is combat with friends. And so what I think is probable is I just want the combat that exists in the game to work. And I think that's doable. So I said, okay. And then some of the newer combat that's been introduced is pretty good. The levels of combat I'm most been associated with has been the BGS side of it. Now, doing that with friends has drawbacks in that you're not able to put up as many points as you would if you're in a face-to-face war. But coordinating the efforts with space buddies and actually doing the combat with each other, that's a lot of fun. Doing the Thargoid combat with space buddies was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But it had some bugs in it. And now we've had just a couple of tastes of power CZs, and the combat in that is pretty damn fun as well, but it doesn't work in a couple of different ways. And we talked about the North American bug where no NPCs spawn for us in open. That may or may not be fixed. We're not sure because now the power PCs that come up don't stick around long enough for us to be able to test it for a couple of days. As soon as the BGS war breaks out in the system, those disappear. So yeah, I want to do more combat with friends.
Heck yes.
And I think okay, is what we even when we go make the combat, we go say we're going to get together and we're going to go attack a stronghold, and that's pretty fun too until you get a few 6 or more commanders in there, and now all the ship launch fighters start looking like water bugs on a pond.
That's okay.
And
Makes them easier to
doing cool
destroy
stuff.
with my T10.
Yes and no. Put a railgun on there and get back to me. Okay, so now take that to the utopian view, which is to be able to expand that. When they love to be able to do combat with more than 4 people in a team, or just when we get into some type of a conflict or an instance, and you've got a lot of commanders out there, that it doesn't start getting buggy. That's where I think I'm getting towards a utopian view. I would love to see it happen. But I think those types of problems are based on the old net code, and I don't see that changing anytime because that's probably an entire rewrite, and that's not going to happen.
Probably, yeah.
But I'd sign up in a heartbeat and give them, write them a check if they said they were going to go after it. So,
yeah, 100%.
How about you,
I
Chig?
agree with both of that. Mine. Oblivious has kind of fed into what I was thinking. And this is, maybe it is everything with them. When you're hoping for stuff is always pie in the sky. But there's in this game, a lot of people, talk about, PvP and, consensual PvP and, people playing in solo compared to open and all this stuff. And the galaxy's just so huge. It's rare that you see other commanders, right? Even if you're in a CZ, either a BGS war or a power CZ if you happen to get one, or even stronghold carrier, or there's a community goal going on and you see other commanders, it can be exciting and fun because it makes the galaxy feel alive. I think an amazing fix they could do in order to get more of that is simply send out alerts whenever players enter a conflict zone or a power CG, or there's PvP occurring somewhere, an alert goes out, and, it could be limited to whatever your power is, whatever BGS faction you're a part of, so you're not just bombarded. But then again, this could all be sorted by the API.
Yeah, or maybe even within certain light years of where it's occurring. Because then you could even put in a slider so players could change that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and that's just it. Yeah, you can get into all kinds of filters and sliders and everything to do that. But think about if you've got a BGS war that you're doing, and we in the past have been attacked, and we had no idea what was going on. We didn't know if they were in open or solo or why these numbers were popping up. But if there was just a report of CZ players involved, doesn't even have to give names, just there were players, and it could say it was solo or not, gives you the ability to strategize around that, knowing that a certain system is being attacked. And we're living in the future in this game. Why wouldn't alerts be sent out? And then you could even go a step further from that, where you could have ship modules that jam transmissions. So it's not sending out the signal. And that's how you can get out of, consensual, non-consensual PvP and stuff like that is, instead of hiding in soul, you could be jamming the signal of that war, or you could be doing distractionary. You have some of your guys attack in one system and then other people attack in another system and see if anybody shows up to either one to defend it. Just little things like that. I know I'd be jumping all over the place trying to find other people to fight if it was that knowledge was out there and we could find that, and it would give you, instead of the galaxy being so empty like it is, you're getting these alerts saying, oh my God, look at this. There's all these battles happening over in this section of space. These powers must be duking it out, or there's, these factions are fighting over here. Let's go fight over here. And even to the point where I said, if it's just signaling PvP, like it's a distress signal that goes out, that's where, system security, or law and order, whatever you call it in this game, is almost non-existent. Players could start to do that policing, all of a sudden you're getting alert that, there's a lot of attacks happening in Shinrarta tonight or Desiat or wherever it may be. All of a sudden it's like, well, guys, look at all these attacks happening over here. Let's go hang out over there tonight and see if we can help some noobs not get blown up, or, just bring the galaxy alive just by broadcasting what's happening around the galaxy with players. And as I said, it doesn't have to even, have commanders' names with that. It can just be, commanders are attacking here or there, and I just think that would just bring the galaxy so
I really
alive.
like that. I like it a lot. But
I wanted to have the commanders' names, but I also wanted to be able to say who's leaving, so I could sit back and watch and see. Okay, system gets under attack, and it's now you see this Chig has just entered the system, and now I start seeing this commander just left, this commander just left, this commander just left.
Now, my one caveat with this is I think that's fine, but I think it should be disabled for places like Desiat and Shinrarta Desra.
Why?
Because a system like you were describing actually does exist in EVE Online. Like, it doesn't tell you who comes in, but you can see that just by looking at chat, the local chat, because no one will be there, and then someone jumps in somewhere in the system. You can't see them, but they're there because their little avatar that they're alive pops into the local chat as soon as they enter the system, right? And the problem is that in really, really, really populated systems in that game, like the capitals of certain factions, it would literally destroy the chat. Like, there was just so much traffic that it was just going off.
Who cares about chat? I would just not look at chat.
Okay, I mean, there is that. I'm just thinking about
in this game, if you're in
point of view.
system, you can see the hollow square or hollow triangle if they're interdicting somebody, things like that. So you can already be in system and looking for people, but you don't know where the action's happening.
Suppose that's true. I'm just saying. As a grizzled veteran from EVE Online, there are some downsides to something like that.
Okay.
That said, we did not have Discord.
So your downside is that too many players would be playing together in an MMO. Yeah, I'm just...
Look, I'm an introvert. What do you want from me?
Okay, gotcha. What do you think, Oblivious?
Yeah, I side with you on that. I kind of like that idea. I do think you're right. Not commander names, but just little general alerts. Okay, there's nefarious stuff going on out here, and gives you the opportunity to mount up and go jump in and see what's going on, see if you can help out or stir things up some more. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Then you can you could take some of our combat nights and turn it into, okay, let's form a posse and we all sit there and wait for the alarm bell to go off and jump in and have fun. I'd like that.
The anti-gank squad.
I mean, even something as simple as, you're on just harvesting mats and all of a sudden you get that alert. And it's like, oh, there's something going on. And then all of a sudden you're saying in Discord, hey guys, Ross 310 is somebody's fighting CZs there. It's none of you guys, right? And then we know that somebody's there and we're mounting up to go see if we can have some face-to-face with other players. But if nothing else, we've been alerted that somebody is fighting these wars, and you don't have to wait for the tick. You can be countering it in real time.
I mean, we've seen it happen outside of the game with our small group. Somebody will occasionally go in the chats. Well, I just got ganked right here, and some of us will prick them and go, oh yeah. Well, let's go back out there and see what's going on. So yeah, that would, in-game
And that,
support of that. That would be nice.
yeah, because that's winning the
Mhm.
lottery. One of our players happens to bump into somebody, and
Right.
in the same system as somebody else at the same time, and then happens to catch some people in Discord. Whereas if you're getting those alerts in game, it would be interesting. Or as I said, even the game, people making, outside tools again that are tracking those things. And then you can set all kinds of filters for this, because the API could just be feeding that, out, and people can be following it that way. So I don't know. I would love that more than anything,
Would set
especially
up so
these
many
days.
different type of gaming scenarios where you send somebody in to start doing some ganking in a system as bait to bring others in.
Yeah,
Well, frick yeah, let's do it.
absolutely.
So,
And
and as soon as that would be pretty good. I
And
like
when I
that.
talked about, consensual PvP and stuff, is you can easily just not participate in this stuff anyway. People already that don't want to do that can be in solo, and
Right.
and avoid it altogether, and
Sure.
and that's fine. So it's not like it's going to increase ganking or anything, because you can still avoid that if that's your biggest fear. But when you've been playing this game for a long time, you start to hope for some interactions here and there.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it would increase it. It would, because it does create a bit of accountability.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still some of it now, the natural places where there's ganking going on, right? And so if you want to go do some anti-ganking, you can name off 5 systems on your, on your right hand, and go out and
Mhm.
probably find it at any time. But for the ones that go outside of those natural areas, now they're potentially being held accountable, because as soon as they do that attack, that alert goes out to the entire player base online at the time, and anybody with a mindset to do so can jump out there and lend a hand, either
Yep,
on a good
100%.
hat or bad hat. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
And as I said, it also makes a natural counter to the stuff where people complain about, wars and stuff and people hiding in solo. If it's
I like it.
saying that somebody's fighting in solo, a real player's fighting in this war in solo, it doesn't give their name, just lets you know that there are players, involved in that war. It at least gives you the opportunity to counter that in real time. So I mean,
Right.
there's that added benefit to it also, and especially when it comes
Right.
to power play and power CZs and stuff like that too. Just gives that opportunity. Puts multiplayer back into this multiplayer game.
There's multiplayer?
Apparently,
I thought it was a legend.
That's wild. As you're thinking about that, of all the BGS CZs that I've done, and I have run into an opposition player in one of those CZs twice.
yeah.
And
I was thinking
I
about a
don't know.
half a dozen times I've done it.
Same.
Now go to power play, and let's see. I think I can count on my 2 hands the number of conflicts I've been able to play in open in, and
Oof.
so let's call it 10,
Mhm.
which is pitiful. But out of that 10, I've run into players of the opposition 3 times, so it's got the potential.
100%.
Just fix it. Oh,
I know, because when you go BGS wars compared to power wars, there's so many more players when you're
yeah,
talking, in a power, and that's why it's so sad that these power CZs go away, because we were able to run into players like that, and it's a nice little adrenaline boost when all of a sudden you see that hollow square on the opposite team of you in any conflict zone. It's like, oh my god, look at that, there's a player there. You see it in Super Cruise and it's a different story, but in an actual combat situation, somebody appearing like that is exciting. Or you drop in and you see them on the other side. So as your fix, just getting these combat things fixed is step one, but then alerts to where these conflicts are happening. And I mean, 100%, if these alerts were out there, the number of people doing, if power CZs were working, those alerts go out, how many actual players could end up in some of these conflicts? It would probably be, interesting. Or even just the nav panel, if there's players in, when you have the CZs in the nav panel, if they're highlighted in red or something, if there's other players in that CZ
There you go.
at time, Good God. Just, yeah.
Yeah, I like this idea a lot. And it reminded me, I've been busy, so I haven't been harping on it as much. But anyone who's listening to this who has not updated the thing on the issue tracker,
Get to updating.
Where'd you go, Lark? He must have updated it.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, he's back.
I'm back. Sorry. I'm just sitting there talking, and then I heard Chig go Bueller, so that's when I realized. What was the last thing you guys heard?
You
were
reminding people to
trying
go
get them
updo.
to
Yes.
Yeah,
so
update.
go
Is that-
update the thing on the issue tracker, because we are trying to get this to the attention. It is very close. It's at least been acknowledged, but not confirmed yet. We're trying to get it moved to confirmed for the issue of power CZs disappearing when a BGS war starts while the power CZ is already going on. Makes the power CZs go and they just cease to exist. So I put a link in the show notes. There is also a link to the issue tracker on the announcements page of our Discord, or you can just ask anyone in our Discord and we'll find you the link. So if you're listening to this and you haven't upvoted that, please go to that link, upvote it. We're trying to get it noticed so it does get fixed.
Amen.
Did you get all that time?
We got it.
Good job,
We
Bueller.
should have just stayed silent.
Right. I'm just sitting here ranting to nobody because my freaking mic wasn't on.
It happens. It happens.
All right, what else?
Oh, man. Yeah,
I
sorry
don't
to
know, anything
derail
else?
that with the update thing, but
I want to hear some of the other guys on the podcast's ideas when they get a chance. So maybe we'll recap some of this next week and ask questions, and like
Absolutely.
discussion topic for next week. Homework for you guys and any of the members of the crew who are not here. Next week, I want to hear ideas for improving the new player experience. Because we all talk about the learning curve in this game and everything else, and it is brutal. This game is hard to get into, especially now, since Odyssey, when you added all the ground stuff on top of it. A lot of people, they don't know if this is a first-person shooter or a space sim or, what the hell this game even is until they get around playing it a little bit. And there's just so much going on. I'd just be curious for some ideas on how to get new players, because if you're not growing your
Absolutely.
player base, it's shrinking. Like anything, if you're not growing, you're dying. So you got to think of ways to help new players. I thought of this today because we had another guy, what was his name, Chaos something.
Chaos Times, person I know from a different community. I got him back into Elite.
Okay, yeah, he hopped on today and was having some frustrations and stuff like that. And it's always interesting when players are either returning or they're brand new and they're discovering just how complex everything is in this game, and just ways to make that easier.
So part of that homework would be brush up on Vanguard, because I think what they've talked about so far, there's some elements of that should help with that.
Okay, well,
onboarding.
good.
Yeah, we'll save that.
Nice.
Perfect.
And I will say about poor Chaos that the man is well versed in memes, because at one point he posted a thing that said, "This is how it's going," and then it was a picture of that view you get as your ship is exploding, and it was just hilarious and sad.
Yeah, we've all been there. But I don't know. That's all I've got for this week. What do you guys? Anything else?
That's all I've got too, man.
Anything else? And you said there's notes. there anything else in there?
So what else is in here is another part of the community corner where Roy is doing season 2 of his Distance Cruise 3 stories. It's kind of like an HBO show where the first season's really good. The second season will probably be really good. So we'll have to see if he can keep it going into a third or not, because that's usually where HBO series falls off. But, we'll see.
Yeah, Roy, I've been meaning
Really?
to complain, man. I want to be able to binge my stories. Can you put them all out at the same time?
I actually just got caught up, and I love the last line of the last episode. I don't know if it's spoilerish to say anything about it, but I do.
Let's just say it is.
Where are we?
Okay, if you don't want to be spoiled, stop listening.
Okay, here's the last line of the last episode. Adaxius, you son of a bitch. So that right there is good enough.
That's
for,
not spoilery. That tracks.
Yeah, that's just a typical day in our
Sorry,
Discord. It's just not said out loud.
Every other entry.
So,
all right.
But good
With
work,
that-
Roy. Keep up the good work, or Fred, or
Or
Froy.
whoever he is. How many of
Yes.
you are alts of Roy? I'm just saying.
It's
I
just
have
2.
thoughts on season 2 here. I'm not comparing it to HBO or anything, no. But I have thoughts. But I'm going to wait and see where you go with this, and then then we'll talk.
Fair enough. All right, if you want to find us for all of the random shenanigans we get into, you can join us by going to loosescrews.com. That is loosescrews.com. There you can find a link to our Discord, which is also in our show notes, or you can join us on Patreon, where all of the money that ever goes into that goes right back into the community. So I have really nothing else. And it's been a while since I hosted, so I am completely off this horse.
All right. I don't
I
like
fell
when you
off the
bring up
horse, and the horse
horses.
ran off.
So
All
let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Daxius, you son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
Oh, Daxius! The outro is supposed to be playing, but I don't know if it is, so I'm just going to stop it here.
Yeah, just end it now. Please, God, end it now.